The first thing I smelled when I woke in that place wasn't dirt or rot. It was the sharp, chemical tang of ozone, like the air after a lightning strike. My fingers brushed against the floor. It was cold, slick, and sticky, as if coated in a thin film of something viscous that hadn't fully dried. From the absolute blackness beyond, a sound began. Not a growl or a footstep, but a low, wet scratching, like something dragging itself across that same damp surface toward me. Then came the whispers. Not from one direction, but from everywhere at once. Voices layered over each other in a language that felt ancient and wrong. A primal dread took hold, a certainty deeper than fear that I was not just lost. I was somewhere I was never meant to be, and something here had been waiting. The air itself grew heavy and thick, pressing down as if the darkness had weight, making each breath a struggle against an invisible force. This is my story, not of how I was taken, but of the 20 years I spent in that place, while my family searched a world I could no longer reach, and the terrible truth of what followed me back when I finally, impossibly, returned. My brother's resolve never wavered, a flickering ember in our shared darkness. Our mother's grief was a raw, consuming thing, a sound that hollowed the house. Tonight, a strange quiet fell, heavier than all her weeping. My fingers found it tucked away, its cover cool and faintly smelling of old paper and forgotten secrets. And page 1, entry 1, is a confession. The sentence hangs in the air, like that final, dissonant piano note. Then, the screen cuts, and we're thrown back into the sun. It's a memory of pure, unguarded joy, now stained by the words that preceded. My mother, Diane, stood on the porch, her smile a fragile memory now. My name is Emily Miller. That was my life, a simple, happy existence in Cedar Falls, Ohio. My father, John, taught high school. It was all so normal until it wasn't. My mom, Diane, was the perfect mom. Soccer games, homemade cookies, bedtime stories. My older brother, Mike, was my constant protector. To any outsider, we were the very definition of a normal family. The perfect picture, framed and hung for all to see. The screen shifts to grainy news footage. Have you seen this child? As Emily's school photo stares back. It all ended that Tuesday, September 14th. I was walking home from school, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Every footstep echoed in the heavy quiet, each one tightening the knot in my chest. It was only 3 blocks. The distance felt impossible. I never made it home. Police found it later, near the old, forgotten train tracks. No signs of a struggle, just the oppressive scent of damp earth and cold iron in the air. No witnesses, just gone. Photos of a crumbling family. John Miller, hollow-eyed, his breath hitched as he touched the cold, damp photograph. A metallic scent of ozone and faint whispers of rot lingered in the air. The search consumed everything. Dad quit his job, his world narrowing to maps and missing posters. Mike, his teenage face now a mask of grim obsession, spent nights hunched over his computer screen, its blue glow the only light in his room. And Diane, always at the center of the storm, wept during every news interview, her fingers clutching a worn, stuffed rabbit as if it were a lifeline. Mom became the public face of our tragedy, the heartbroken mother on every morning show. She kept my room as a shrine, untouched for 2 decades. Her grief became the bedrock of our family, a cold, heavy foundation we all lived upon. The air in our house grew thick with the scent of old flowers and unspoken words. It was the one thing we all believed was real. 6 months have passed since Mom's death. The box sat untouched until today, its surface gathering a fine layer of dust that felt gritty under her fingertips. A faint scent of old paper and lavender. Her mother's perfume lingered in the still air, a ghost of memory that made her throat tighten. A sudden stroke. We felt a dark, guilty relief. The performance of grief had finally ended, or so I believed. Then, the air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and damp earth. A primal dread took hold as I realized our relief was premature. While clearing out her house, Mike discovered a locked metal box buried deep in the back of her closet. Inside wasn't jewelry or old love letters. It was a diary, its leather cover cracked and brittle. The pages smelled of mildew and time, their edges stained with what might have been tea or something darker. This wasn't from recent years. The handwriting style and paper quality whispered of another era entirely. This one was from the year I vanished. I nearly left it sealed. I expected pages of grief, prayers for my return. But that first line seized my heart. Narrator, September 15th. The date alone carried a weight that made the air in the room feel thick, like old dust and forgotten memories. The house was thick with police presence, their radios crackling with static. John sat broken in a corner, his face a mask of utter devastation. Nearby, Mike's choked sobs were a raw, relentless sound against the murmur of official voices. And they kept circling back, the questions a dull, repetitive hammer against my frayed nerves. When did you last see her? What was she wearing? I recited our rehearsed answers perfectly. The director's plan was working flawlessly. Emily's face went ashen. Her breath caught in her throat, sharp and sudden. We rehearsed? The question echoed in my mind. My eyes raced across the pages. scanning faster now. This wasn't a diary of grief. The realization settled with a sickening weight. A ledger, not a diary, but a cold, meticulous accounting. The entries were instructions, performative notes for a grieving mother. September 20th noted the Today Show interview went well, followed by that chilling reminder. Every calculated tear, every rehearsed sob, documented in ink. October 5th. John's suspicion sharpened. He questioned my unnatural calm while designing the missing posters. I had to fabricate a desperate, tearful collapse right there on the kitchen floor. He believed the performance. But the real dread came on November 12th. The private investigator I hired began circling the truth, his inquiries probing too deep, too close to the predator's secret lair. The air in my study grew thick with the scent of old paper and cold sweat. Every scratch of his pen on a notepad, every methodical footstep outside my door, felt like a clock counting down to my exposure. Tomorrow, she'd make the anonymous call about the blue van. Every false lead that spiraled the investigation into dead ends was her design. Each clue she planted was a deliberate misdirection, a path she carved into the darkness. But the haunting question remained. What motive could drive such a calculated, sinister deception? The diary hinted at a reason, but it was encoded in a cryptic shorthand. She obsessively referenced the project and something called the final report, her entries growing more frantic with each mention. The air in the room grew thick with the scent of old paper and something metallic, like ozone after a storm. And then a name emerged from the cipher. Dr. Alistair Finch. Emily's fingers trembled over the keyboard as she unearthed the truth. The archived article materialized on screen. Prominent child psychologist Dr. Alistair Finch retires amid controversy. 2001. The air in the room grew thick with the scent of old paper and digital decay. Finch hadn't just retired. He had operated a private, highly secretive clinic, its doors sealed shut from prying eyes. I began specializing in attachment disorders in mothers. The deeper I dug, the more my hands trembled uncontrollably. My search led me to a former nurse who agreed to speak only under the cloak of anonymity. In a voice thick with dread, she whispered of Finch's radical, profoundly unethical theories. He believed some mothers harbored a pathological need to stand at the epicenter of a tragedy, to be seen as either the ultimate victim or the ultimate savior. In a sterile office, a younger Diane listens intently. A shadowy doctor leans forward, his voice a low, conspiratorial whisper. The air in the room was thick with the sterile scent of antiseptic, undercut by something faintly metallic. Every word he uttered seemed to seep into the cold, polished surfaces around them, leaving a residue of dread. Finch would identify these women, then facilitate scenarios, not to harm the child, he claimed, but to engineer a controlled crisis. His goal was to bond the mother to a narrative of loss and resilience. The nurse said most cases were small, a staged kidnapping scare, a brief disappearance from a mall, but one patient took the script too far. She flips to the final entry, dated the day before her disappearance. The air grows heavy with the scent of old paper and something metallic. Final meeting with AF. Tomorrow. The plan was finalized. Emily would be safe with the Michigan couple, as arranged. The terms were absolute. No contact until her 18th birthday. A faint scent of damp paper and old ink clung to the agreement. The arrangement felt less like a promise and more like a binding, silent pact. They received the child, a small, fragile life to be bartered away. I received something far more precious, a masterpiece of grief, meticulously sculpted from their anguish. The air grows heavy with the scent of ozone and a faint, metallic tang of despair. And AF receives exactly what he requires. Cold, precise data, extracted from his terrible equation. Years will pass, the search will fade, and John and Mike will be shattered. And then, I will find her. I will be the hero, the mother who never surrendered, the one who finally brought her baby home. The final report would prove I was the perfect subject, the perfect mother. Emily stares into the camera, her eyes glistening not with sorrow, but with a cold, simmering fury. The air in the room feels thick, tasting of old paper and something faintly metallic. Her voice is a raw whisper, cracking with a horror that has settled deep into her bones. I wasn't kidnapped. A beat of silence, filled only by the relentless tick of the clock. I was donated. I was a prop in my mother's twisted thesis, sold to strangers to prove a point to a madman. She was playing a game I never knew existed, using me as her pawn in a psychological experiment. Now, in the suffocating dark, the diary sits beside me, its pages whispering truths too terrible to comprehend. The metallic scent of fear hangs in the air, a tangible reminder of the bargain that sealed my fate. A faded photograph rests in her lap. Her, Mike, and their father, the only proof of that vanished life. The Michigan couple took me in. They were gentle souls who became my parents for 6 fleeting years. Then came the screech of metal, the acrid scent of smoke. Their car accident shattered everything. That's when I was swallowed by the system, alone in the echoing silence that followed. That's why I remained hidden. My mother, Diane, was waiting for the perfect moment to stage her grand reunion. But Finch's clinic was shut down. His records were seized. Her script vanished. and I outlasted her scheme. The metallic scent of old grief hung in Mike's room. Our father's heart simply gave out, shattered by the silence. Now, only the damp chill of unanswered questions remains. I possessed this book. Her confession. The air in the attic grew heavy with the scent of old paper and dust. Do I reveal it to him? The question clung to my thoughts like a cold, damp chill. Would I tear down the final monument to our family? The cherished memory of a loving mother, only to replace it with this monster? A primal dread took hold as the weight of that choice settled in the room's oppressive silence. The page lay open, revealing that terrible first sentence in stark, looping ink. She wrote that she made me disappear, but she was wrong. She didn't make me vanish. The air in the room grew thick, tasting of old paper and faint metallic tang. She made herself the star of my tragedy. And the most haunting question isn't in these pages. It's in my reflection each dawn. A cold, metallic scent hangs in the air as I meet those familiar, unfamiliar eyes. How do you grieve for a mother who was never real, while desperately trying to erase the one who was? The silence that follows is absolute. A void swallowing the last echo of the question.